Hey everyone, Jon Wertheim. It is today's Quick Serve, your micro dose of the Serve podcast, day 6 from the 2025 Australian Open. We were looking for a theme here. I'm not sure I seized on a great one, but this was sort of a day when the real contenders sort of put their footprint on this draw and said, "Hey, remember us?" And some of the sort of outside candidates retreated a little bit. So we had advancing of the top seeds and then a retreat from that next level down. Probably the theater of life that is tennis. We all probably do this. We love shiny objects and disruption and upsets, and sometimes we do that at the expense of the stalwarts, the tried and true regulars. So Aryna Sabalenka, the second defending champion, double defending champion, trying to win her 17th straight match at this tournament, and she did, beating Clara Tauson of Denmark. This was not peak Sabalenka, but she did what she had to do, 39 winners, no aces, interestingly enough. But no, this is an example of a top-flight player who doesn't have to be at her A level to win. She did just that. Same, I would say, for Carlos Alcaraz, though this match savored a bit of anticlimax, because if you saw the coin flip, that may have been the highlight of the day. It's a reminder of sort of the small gestures and the joy that sports and proximity to athletes can bring kids. If you get a chance, look up the coin flip of Carlos Alcaraz match. As for the match itself, it wasn't quite the same level that he brought to bear the first 2 rounds, but good enough to beat Nuno Borges in 4 sets. Speaking of bringing their best tennis to bear, Novak Djokovic had a rough couple of rounds, did not look his best, sort of maybe he looked all 37 of his years, and then in the 3rd round, he absolutely turned it around. Beat Thomas Machac. A lot of people had circled this as a really tough match against a slugging player in the top 30, and Novak looked like the kind of guy who has won 24 majors. A little bit of injury concern. He was at one point said he had trouble breathing and looked like he was getting some sort of rib massage. As for the tennis itself, it was absolutely splendid. I mean, he only gave up 9 games against a guy who a lot of people thought had a real chance of scoring an upset. So Novak Djokovic now is officially in this tournament. Andy Murray is now officially 3-0 as a professional tennis coach. But really, this was the kind of match that leads you to think, hey, wait, maybe we've overlooked Djokovic and maybe he's still got one more run in him. Coco Gauff played Leylah Fernandez for the 2nd time this year and had little trouble. Not so many, only 3 double faults, which he's got to be pleased with. Just a nice sort of solid. It's more than survive and advance. It's less than absolute the Coco show. Just sort of a nice solid win. Has there ever been a player who's reached veteran status faster than Coco Gauff? We forget about her age, and she just sort of comports herself as if she's been doing this for 15 years. Other matches, Jessie Pegula, who is coming off a final at the previous major, she just didn't have it yesterday. Maybe a little bit of a tweaky injury, but lost to Olga Danilovic, daughter of an NBA player, I'll have you know. But that's not a great loss for Pegula. She's got to be really disappointed about that. Speaking of disappointment, Naomi Osaka, after 2 big wins, beating Caroline Garcia and then Karolina Muchova to get to the 3rd round. She had that ab injury act up again and had to retire midway through her match against Belinda Bencic. Just sidebar, a lot of people were speculating, why is Naomi Osaka 2-time champion here, 4-time major champion with all the Japanese attention and broadcast pressures? Why is she continuing not to play on the 2 biggest courts? Perhaps this is all conspiracy theory here, but perhaps her camp anticipated that, knowing that this match might see her take the court compromised. And she didn't finish that match, retiring after the 1st set. Alexander Zverev is a winner. Tommy Paul, who we don't talk about enough, he won his match handily as well. Looks very good, rounding the corner into week 2. Let's look at the schedule today. What do we got? We got Iga Swiatek, who's barely dropping games against Emma Raducanu. That's an interesting match. 2 players, both of whom have won a hard court major. 2 former U.S. Open champions. We've got Emma Navarro, who has not looked her best by her own admission, but has survived in advance. That actually is how she signed the camera after her 2nd round match. She has survived in advance and now gets Ons Jabeur. We'll see what Jabeur physically comes up with there. That's a match Navarro probably ought to win if Jabeur is anything less than 100%. Taylor Fritz against Gael Monfils in a fun match, pitting a guy who's the runner-up at the previous major, very much playing like a contender. That's Taylor Fritz, and Gael Monfils finding that second wind at age 38. He's already won a title this year. Yannick Sinner plays Marcos Giron of UCLA. That's an American we don't talk about enough, Marcos Giron, but Yannick Sinner is the heavy favorite there. Ben Shelton is trying to continue his run. He's looked very good through 2 rounds, not just with the athleticism and the lefty and the serving, but with some real strategic tennis out there. And then the last match, Madison Keys against Danielle Collins. The joke is that Madison Keys just won herself about 25 million fans after Danielle Collins' outburst in her last match. Just a word on that. A lot of people wrote in about that, and it's kind of been chatter. Danielle Collins, if you missed it after her second round match, sort of gave it back to the partisan crowd, and then had the line that the great thing about sports is that the haters pay your bills. That got a lot of play. Novak Djokovic was asked about it. Not surprisingly at all. He was in robust support of Danielle Collins. I actually think it's really clever. I mean, this is a very, very stressful profession. Tennis matches can be stressful. You're out there alone. You've got a crowd. In this case, it was a bit of a hostile crowd. And athletes tell themselves things all the time to manage stress and to sort of decompress, and telling yourself that these people booing. I mean, it's one thing to say to yourself, hey, calm down, you got this, block them out. If you can tell yourself affirmatively, these people booing are actually paying my bills, and as Danielle Collins put it, I may as well take, as long as that's the case, I may as well take the bigger one. I think that's actually a really smart message to tell yourself in a stressful situation. So everyone had a good laugh at the quote, but I think there's actually some real wisdom in sports psychology in there. Anyway, that will deep thoughts by Danielle Collins. All right, that'll do it for today. That is today's Quick Serve. Tomorrow, Andy joins us and we do our redraw show, our much needed, in my case, second serve, where we reassess what happened, mark ourselves for bad picks, Seb Corda, and spin forward to week 2. So join us tomorrow. Andy will be back. We're going to be redrawing and recapping and trying to prognosticate the second week. Like, subscribe, leave a review, and enjoy the weekend of tennis, everyone.